I got into the business because I wanted to improve the lives of women and give women confidence and build a culture around the fashion industry that really uplifted women. And on the outside, it looked like I was crushing it. I had everything that anyone wanted. I was living out of New York. I had these insane mentors that are some of the most successful people in the fashion industry. I was in every magazine. I was in WWD. All the celebrities were wearing the bags. It was from the outside in a very egoic way. It was like, oh wow, she reached such a level of success. But I was so unhappy. One day I just woke up and I was like, I'm doing too many things and the company is too small and the industry is too volatile to say oh, I can go get a CFO and I can go get all these things. By the time I got to that point, I was too burnt out. And so that's where I'm so much smarter now about anything that I do or build again. I will have partners and we'll all be in our roles.
All right, today we are joined by Sage Aubrey, creative director and brand medium, known for her work helping founders, creatives, and leaders align their identity, energy, and presence. Through her process, the Sage Method, she guides people to shed what no longer fits and rise into the clarity and power of who they are becoming. So I am so excited to sit down with you and get behind your success because you have had one of the most, I would say, iconic journeys of people that I've met since I moved to Arizona in 2018 up until now. And I think that we have to start with, and I know you had an entire life before you decided to build your handbag line, but Sage has the most gorgeous design eye out of anyone I know. You built, I own 3 or 4 of your bags. I'm obsessed with them. I want more of them. How did you get into building a handbag brand out of basically thin air? Because Lord knows you're not doing it in Arizona.
Yeah, so it looked like it was thin air, but really it was not. I started in the fashion industry with my mom and my sister when I was 15. We started an accessories business that was, I like to say it was an accessories business, but we sold fake handbags. And
I love that.
Yeah. And it sounds dumpy, but really we were some of the first people in Arizona who started to bring fake handbags into the Valley. This is so many years ago.
You were Canal Street of Arizona.
Yes.
But probably nicer.
Yes. So I started with that. So at a very young age, I was used to connecting with women and selling goods to them. And I'll never forget when I was sitting in one of the rooms on the floors at one of the purse parties that we were having. And all these women, I was sitting around all these older women and they were sharing all of these stories. And they were kind of horrendous stories. And they were all these older, rich women. And I was like, wow, I think it's my job in life to protect women. And I'll never forget. And I say that now because I'm starting to see a pattern of what I do in my life. And it always has something to do with building women, building confidence, showing how to evolve in life and in your career as a woman. And so I started really young and I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew that whatever I did, it was going to make great impact in women's lives. And so the only way that I really knew how to do that was through fashion and style. So I've stayed true to my roots and not tried to be a phony and act like I could do something else for people that I couldn't. But so that was my first, that's where I embarked on my entrepreneurial journey, was at 15. From there, I went to fashion school, left fashion school, came back to Phoenix and started my first brick-and-mortar stores when I was 21. I had up to 3 stores at one point. I unfortunately lost those in the 08-09 crash here, but I had multiple stores. I had a lot of responsibility. I was 24. I was 21 when I started, and I was 26 when I got out of the business. So at a very young age, I've also carried a lot of responsibility.
And you had to go through a really tough financial time and learn all those lessons.
Yeah. And so I thought I was crushing it. And I was 30 under 30 here in Phoenix. And 6 months later, I was literally almost filing for bankruptcy, getting sued by multiple real estate companies. And so my story is always I've had these really high highs, but I've also had really low lows. And I think every time you survive the highs and the lows, again, it builds more confidence to be like, okay, I survived that shit show. Like I can go to the next one.
Yes.
And so when I got into the brick and mortar business, retail killed me. I was there like 7 days a week. It was insane running a bunch of younger employees. It just burnt me out. So I was always at the shows and I was like, how do I get on that side of the business? And so that kind of parlays into how I started the handbag business. It was because I've been taking all of these steps in my journey. And the next evolution for me felt really natural to be like, okay, I'm not going to be in the retail space any longer. I'm going to go and build my own brand. And this was at the time when Rebecca Minkoff was popping off, and I read her story and I was like, she seems like a normal chick. Like if she can do it, yeah, like I can do it. And so I think that's the insanity in myself as well, is like this insane ambition and this kind of curiosity in life to be like, well, if someone else can do it, why the heck else can I not do it? And so I decided that I was going to start a handbag brand. I started research and development in 2011. I started to actually sample in 2012, and the business didn't actually get off the ground until 2016. So I was literally in product development for 3.5 years of just trying to figure out how to build a signature style. And so what I learned in that business was identity was king. If I didn't have an identity in what I was doing and I couldn't stand my bag next to a Louis Vuitton and you couldn't differentiate what is Sage Aubrey bag to a Louis Vuitton bag, I would have been dead in the water. So that really taught me a lot about the journey that I'm now on with personal brands and developing other brands is how do you find an identity? How do you differentiate yourself from everyone else?
Yeah.
And the most important thing that you can do, whether you're a personal brand, a product-based brand, whether you have a business, whatever it is knowing what differentiates you from your competition. And then figuring out how do you reveal that? How do you discover that? And so that's kind of where I start to see all these little patterns in my life, has always been about what is your identity? What is your truth?
So how did you come up with figuring out, through the obstacles of figuring out, I need an identity for this future handbag, how did you kind of navigate all of that to getting to eventually production?
Yeah, so I was working with a particular manufacturer in LA. That was when I was trying to produce an American-made product. I'll never forget one day he came in and he was this really nasty Italian-Iranian man. And he was like, look, everything that you create here is shit. And I was like, okay. He's like, so this is what you're going to do. And he literally goes in the back of his manufacturing facility and brings out like a Louis Vuitton pamphlet. And he's like, flip through this and basically steal the design. And I'm just going to stamp your name on this product. He's like, this is what everyone does. So if you want to be in this business, this is what you need to learn to do. And I walked away from that meeting and I was like, if I'm ever going to be anybody or do anything, this would be the worst piece of advice that I could ever take because it wouldn't make my product special. It will just be the same thing. I'm not going to go anywhere. He didn't give a shit about whether I was going to succeed or ruthlessly fail.
Right.
And they were just taking my money. And so I left that day and I was like, okay, he's the wrong partner to have in this whole thing. And I need to go and find a new manufacturer. So I went to another show in Magic or LA or New York. It was one of them. And I found another manufacturer that I convinced. Actually, I did not convince him. I just showed up on his doorstep in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. And I literally would not leave
I love the
until they
determination.
said yes. I know, I'm not kidding you. And they were literally like, you need to get back on a plane and leave. And I was like, I'm not leaving until I have samples. So that's the other part of my story is like, I've always had this when I set my mind to something. Like my husband always says, I'm an extremely stubborn person. I'm just going to go and figure out how to make it work. And it's never been easy. And so,
How did you land in Italy with the same manufacturers of Gucci, Louis, all those guys?
yes. So I was at this manufacturing facility and again, failing miserably. My samples were ugly. The sample maker was like an alcoholic and he kept losing my stuff. And the moment I kind of had a good sample, then he would go lost and drunk and they couldn't find my samples. So, but the part of living, I was basically living out of Puerto Plata, out of this inclusive crap hotel. And they would come and pick me up every day and then beg me to leave at the end. They're like, please get your plane ticket home. I was like, no, I don't have my samples yet. I'm still here. And by the way, at this time, I was also pregnant with my first baby well. Yeah. So it was just like,
What a time.
Yeah, it was insane. So the cool thing was I was at the facility and I was literally like, look, put me to work here. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what a fucking grommet is. I don't know what a zipper is. I don't know how to splice leather. I don't know anything. I was like, I will mop the floors. Like, just let me be here so I can learn. And I got on the floors, and the cool thing was, because I was like the rat that wouldn't leave, or the cat, I met every single designer in person who came through there, because I was like literally sweeping floors for them while they were building out Toomey product. I was like, hey, let me just sweep this line underneath of what you're building here. And I started to like overhear conversations, and then I befriended this really kind gentleman. And this kind gentleman came with a lot of learning lessons. And so at the end of my workday, where he would be like doing dope shit, I was like cleaning floors at this disgusting manufacturing facility. He would be like, let me take you for dinner. Let's chat. Okay. So he would take me to dinner. We would go to breakfast before our like work days. And he was like, and he worked for Toomey. And he also worked for Coach and Cole Haan and all of the big guys. And he was like, you're never going to get what you need here. And I was like, I get that, but I also have nowhere else to go. I was like, Italy shut me down. America's too expensive. So I'm here trying to make the best of what I can here. And so he was like, my best piece of advice is that you do everything you can in your power to get into an Italian manufacturing facility. He's like, I don't have a ton of contacts there right now because I'm not working like with Cole Haan and all these brands anymore. He's like, but whatever contacts I do, I'm going to try to open up doors for you. He's like, if there's a slight door opening and interest, run. Like, go as fast as you can to go meet them in Italy, shake hands, and do whatever you can to get into the facility. Long story short, he did just exactly what he said he was going to do. He opened up a couple contacts. None of them had interest in meeting me, but they actually replied back to an email. So I was like, okay.
Time to book a ticket.
That means we need to book a ticket and we need to go to the show. We need to go shake some hands and meet these people. Of course, they don't speak any English. And one particular group had invited me out to their manufacturing facility. And that's where I got my foot in the door. They didn't want to work with me. They actually asked me to leave as well. And then the daughter was there translating. And the daughter said to the dad, if you're not going to help her, I'm going to help her. And so at that moment, the dad was like, fine, she's yours then. And so she taught me everything. Again, so I went from living in Puerto Plata to living in Sorrento, Italy, which is a much nicer place. I was also still pregnant. Yeah, upgrade, exactly. And I literally was living in the manufacturing facility. And that's where I learned everything about leathers, where to source. I met sourcing agents that kind of became my fairy godmothers because they were the sourcing agents of Ralph Lauren and all the big guys, Paul Smith. And again, if I wasn't in there, I would have never had those opportunities. And so I think the lesson out of it is like, I had no ego. I was like, I wanted it more than what my ego was afraid of keeping me out of. And so I wasn't afraid to ask for help. I was afraid, but I still asked for help. And I think that's the cool thing about having determination and knowing kind of what you want and knowing that it's not easy to get there. And you have to put yourself in circumstances where you look like a fucking idiot. Yeah. Because I did, and I still will. Because if that's what I have to do to grow, evolve and get yourself into rooms and places, like sometimes that's what it takes.
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Like I said, the bags, we will show some of them on the screen in this episode so you can see how insane they are. I mean, the craftsmanship, the design, all of it, really, really, really amazing. So, okay, you conquered that goal and you took it. Everyone, especially here, I don't know globally, but everyone here knew your brand, like it was the handbag. Even when I go out to dinner, so people are like, oh my God, that's a Sage Aubrey. It's so So cool.
Miss my girls.
It's like a secret little club of us.
Yes.
And I met you because we were trying to build a whole handbag brand, and I had a very short runway to do it, not anywhere near as much R&D time, and went through all the manufacturing woes as well. Never made it to Italy, sadly. So I know just how horrible and hard that is. And we didn't even get it to a point where we're like, hey, we can go online and purchase the dang thing. So so many kudos. So as you were going through that, there's got to be points where your faith is really, really tested. And eventually you've come out on this other side of you are building people's incredible personal brands. So what was a moment where your faith was really, really, really tested and you were just ready to throw everything to the wind and say, fuck it?
I think when I was in that business, we were on such a growth trajectory, which was incredible. And on the outside, it looked like I was crushing it. I had everything that anyone wanted. I was living out of New York. Like I had these insane mentors that are some of the most successful people in the fashion industry. I was in every magazine. I was in WWD. All the celebrities were wearing the bags. Like it was a big, it was from the outside in a very egoic way. It was like, oh, wow, she reached such a level of success. But I was like so unhappy. And it wasn't because I got into the business because I wanted to improve the lives of women and give women confidence and build a culture around the fashion industry that really like uplifted women. And what I didn't realize was like I was doing that in my way, but I was trying to do all of these roles where I was like raising the capital. I was doing every part of the business. And I'm much wiser now. To get back into the business, I would never go in and say, I'm going to run finance. I'm going to run all of it. I would be like, no, I'm the creative. And this is my role in the company. And I have other people who can run all the different parts of the business that really make it ultra successful. And so I think one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm doing too many things. And the company is too small and the industry is too volatile to say like, oh, I can go get a CFO and I can go get all these things. By the time I got to that point, I was too burnt out. And so, again, I think that's where I wanted to be more honest with myself. I was like, yeah, from the outside, I was crushing it. My ego loved that. But I had to be ruthlessly honest with myself, too, am I doing what I should be doing? Or what's my purpose of doing all of this now? Because I completely lost why I got into what I was doing for. I thought I was going to be designing and motivating and elevating, which I did in so many ways. But the business part of the industry just killed me. And so that's where I'm so much smarter now about anything that I do or build again. I will have partners and we'll all be in our roles, and I won't try to be building.
You don't want to have to do it all.
No, and I won't do it all ever again. No.
The smartest entrepreneurs don't just create businesses, they create content that scales them. At PS Studios, we work with high-level entrepreneurs and creators across the country. Some fly in every month to shoot with us in sunny Scottsdale. Others send us their raw footage and we turn it into scroll-stopping, authority-building content. From filming to editing to distribution, we handle it all. Done for you. Turnkey content that grows your audience, elevates your brand, and keeps you top of mind. Leaders don't wait, they create. Schedule your call today.
You'll find the right team and build it out that way.
So talk to us about where you're at right now. So we have walked away from manufacturing, from retail sales, and now you're literally changing people's lives one personal brand at a time. But how did you stumble into that next chapter of Sage?
Yeah, so I think a huge part of my mission has always been, when I had the brand and the brand was crushing it, I would sit for hours and just mentor women out of just the want of wanting to help other women get ahead as well. And so any knowledge that I had, I naturally wanted to bestow it on to anyone else that I possibly could. And so I've always been in mission. Like that's always been a large part of what I've done. I'm like, how can I help other people's lives, transform other people's lives? And whatever I had to give at the moment is what I would ultimately give. And so I think what we were talking about earlier was that understanding how identity differentiates you from the pack. And when I decided to take a huge step back from Sage Aubrey and the leather goods business, I was like, what do I really love to do? What is it? How do I get back into a life of like mission and giving back and helping women and helping people prosper in their lives? And I was given this creativity, and how do I like open that up to more people? And so I didn't really know where I was going at all. I just knew that, again, I was always going to be rooted in wanting to help people find their truth, prosper, elevate, find more success for themselves. And so by the grace of God, I decided that I was going to take a huge step back, and I started to have people just DM me and knock on my door. I didn't ever put it out. I still really haven't totally come out into the world to say, like, this is totally what I'm doing now. It's just I've built a referral network and a reputation here, and that's just built what I'm doing now. And so going into brands and helping individuals understand their identities, align in it, and find greater success in elevating themselves is just been kind of the light of my life. And I feel like it was so purposeful that I've taken all of these interesting steps to kind of get to like where I am now.
That's so awesome.
So then what's one lesson about building a brand or helping somebody else build their brand or identity that stands out to you from your experience as far as making it look good and making it matter?
Yeah, what does everyone need to know and do?
Yeah, I think the big first thing is that we live in a really performative culture. So it's like, how can we mask to make ourselves look like something that we're maybe not? And I tell all of my clients right now, like, we are literally coming out of that era of where we were, if this very performative era. We're really coming into this place of embodiment and truth. And so what I really try to help founders come into now is like, who are you really? How do we really have connection? And can we really have connection with others if we're not connected to ourselves? And so the big first thing that I do with my clients is help them reconnect with who they truly are. Because if you want to build community today, if you want to have connection with others, if you want to build a product that changes people's lives and transforms people, you have to know where it comes from. And it has to come from a really honest, truthful place. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the first step that I always tell all of my clients is like, I work completely different. I don't consider myself in the branding world. And I really look at this as a really soul strategy, is like, how do we get back to our truth? And from that, we can find like our presence and power. And if we are not in our presence and power, then how can we lead? And so really it's for people who want to be at the top of their game and want to really know how to build something of great impact today.
What do you find the most cringy things going on when it comes to how people are building personal brands or showing up in the online space, especially? Like, tell us your betrayal list if we're going to be on trend.
I just feel like we all have a really good eye today of sniffing out people who are phony. And so I think a lot of people who built these maybe cult-like kind of brands off of something that wasn't completely authentic.
They took a Louis Vuitton sample and stamped that self on it?
Exactly. And so when I meet these people who have acted like they've built something of great value, which they have, but they don't live that in their everyday life, they're out of alignment.
You're like, oh, you're selling multi-level marketing like makeup. Like, calm down. It's really not that
well,
serious.
And it comes from an egoic like place and not from a place of like mission and value and wanting to really help and transform people's lives. And I think that's where I like to work with people who want to do good on the greater good.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of those people who operate in a space of they're out for themselves, but they act like they're out for other people. That really makes me cringe. So when people act and they say one thing, but they're not really that when the lights turn off.
Right.
That's kind of what makes me like cringe today.
100%. I feel like I've seen a lot of that where someone, their online presence seems so nice and like not necessarily as ego driven as they are behind the scenes. Like the they're off camera and they're rude to people and they're demeaning and they think that they're, Tony Robbins like twin, and you're just like, calm down. This is exhausting.
Yeah.
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 And so I think that's like the most cringy thing for me is like, okay, you have some ego deaths in your future.
What would you say 2 or 3 tips are for somebody who's like, I want to figure out how I can hone my personal brand, or maybe I know I need to show up in this digital world that we're on, but I'm a bit busy like myself running a business and doing the things day to day.
Or they know they need to do it, but they just don't.
Yeah.
They
How
know
do
it's
you
an
break
important
through?
implementation.
Yeah. Okay. So finding our differentiators. A lot of times we want to hide what actually is going to bring us connection with people. So one of the big things that I help with my clients is like, how do we remove these masks and the distortion of who you think people want from you? And then helping them understand that actually you being you in your most imperfect nature is what we actually need from you. Because this is how we understand ourselves. When we can see ourselves in the product, person, problem, so on and so forth, this is how you attract us, because we're like, oh, we get them. They get us.
You're relatable.
We're relatable. We can connect on something. We can connect on a different level. So the big thing is starting to understand, where are you masking where you're actually going to bring true connection to yourself, your brand, or your product. And I think this is work in personal brand development that's very difficult to do for yourself, because it's hard to
take that step outside of yourself to see a different picture.
Yeah, and most of the time people spend the majority of their lives trying to hide and cover up the most special nuggets of themselves. And so that's what I love doing with people, is like, how do we reveal who you truly are, and how can I give them confidence to show up in their true nature? And that's where I'm like, magnetism turns on, power turns on, presence turns on, essence turns on. And that's the secret sauce, is like that thing that you're hiding. That's actually that's going to make you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Our final question that we ask everybody is, what does freedom mean to you?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I've made huge life-changing rituals in my life. One of them is, how do I start my day? And I will no longer start my day by chasing to the phone, by living in this really manic way. So I've learned to control my day and know that when I wake up in the morning, I own the day. And when I own my day and I control it and I start it the way that I want to start it, there is something so grounding and powerful about that. So did I answer your question, or did I go off on the wrong tangent?
I mean, I think that
that's my freedom, is knowing that I own
the
my
way
day.
that you used to be was reactive, and now you completely have turned off the reactivity and you do whatever the hell you want.
But in a very
great way.
ritualistic way. Like every morning I wake up and I meditate anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes. And I wake up early and I set that discipline. And if it didn't change my life, I wouldn't wake up and do it every single day.
Yeah.
And from that part, I start my day in a full gratitude practice that has completely changed my cortisol. It's healed my hormones. It is it's unbelievable. So once you start to take control of these little things in your life, these 2 little millimeter changes, I feel like you will become a transformed human being. And so that's also stuff that I try to teach my clients, is ground into your day, own the day. When you own the day, then you know how you want the day to work for you.
Absolutely.
And that's my freedom. And so I wake up every single day tired as shit, but disciplined in the ritual of, today I'm going to own the day, and this is how it's going to start. Mm-hmm. And you can't spike all my cortisol and do all of that when I'm grounded from the start of the day. So that's something that's my freedom. That's changed my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, where can people find you if they would like to connect?
Yes, I am the Sage Aubrey on Instagram, and you can find my website, which is thesageaubrey.com as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sitting down and sharing all of the beautiful things behind your success. And if you need anything from us, you can find us at pscreativestudios.com. That's a wrap.